What's up, guys? Patrick here, and first of all, I hope you're having a wonderful day, but second of all, I'm making this video to announce a few changes that we're making to the channel. First change we're making is that unless we're seeing a breaking news or we're seeing an emergency segment that's going on, emergency situation for hurricane season, unless we have a hurricane that's expected to make landfall, for example, I'm shortening the video length to 5 minutes. I'm doing this because I don't want to waste your guys' time unless it's like an absolute emergency. So, with that being said, we're shortening it down to 5 minutes, so that way we can record the video, send it out, and you guys can watch it, and you can just be on your way. Because I don't think people want to stay around for like 10 minutes or something like that, seeing like a tropical storm that's not going to really go anywhere. But we are going to be lengthening that time if we have a breaking news segment or if we're seeing an emergency situation. Now, what we would consider a breaking news segment here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel is if we have an upgrade from one category to the next, for example, tropical depression to tropical storm or tropical storm to hurricane, we're going to have a breaking news segment. But if it's going to be a tropical depression to tropical storm, we're not lengthening the amount of time. We're going to cover everything in that time frame. But if we're seeing rapid intensification, if we're seeing an upgrade from a tropical storm into a hurricane, we are extending that length time of the video just to get you guys as much information as we can. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get to the second change. The next change I am making here on the channel is that I am going to be introducing codes to this page. And how those are going to work is that we have 4 color-coded codes we're going to be using. Code yellow, code orange, code red, and code purple. And I'm making this video to explain how all of those are going to work. So you're going to see what they're going to look like in the transition slides. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. A code yellow is if we are expecting a hurricane at landfall. And how this is going to be issued is if there's a hurricane warning, or if this thing is strengthened into a hurricane and is expected to make landfall in the next 72 hours, we are going to be issuing the code yellow. That way we can get some information out. We can get people to understand what's going on and the potential threat of this. Now, the criteria for a code yellow is if a Category 1 or Category 2 hurricane is expected to make landfall in the next 72 hours, or if a tropical storm is expected to strengthen into a hurricane and make landfall in the next 48 hours. So that's that's the criteria we're setting for the code yellow. So let's go ahead and get to the code orange. Now, code orange is pretty interesting here because how we're going to issue a code orange is if we are seeing a major hurricane Category 3 or Category 4 in strength, if it has strengthened and is expected to stay out to sea for the next 5 days. So that's basically what we're doing. The code orange, we're issuing the code orange not because even if it doesn't make landfall, not because we don't want to waste your time or anything like that. We don't want to do that. We're just issuing that because we are taking this very seriously, and forecasts can change. So we're just going to issue the code orange if we're expecting a major hurricane out to sea. It's not expected to make landfall in the next 5 days, and that's what we're going to be doing with that. Now, we're going to go ahead and get into the serious stuff, and we're going to talk about code red. A code red is if we are expecting a major hurricane, Category 3 or Category 4 strength, expected to make landfall, or if we have a Category 5 that is going to stay out to sea for the next 5 days. How we're going to determine this is if it has strengthened into a major hurricane and is expected to remain a major hurricane until landfall up to 72 hours out, we're going to issue a code red. There are going to be exceptions, of course, because if this becomes a major hurricane and it weakens below major hurricane status before it makes landfall, we're going to continue to issue the code red, but once it weakens down to past major hurricane status, we're going to downgrade it down to code yellow, just to give it some more simplicity. The other way we're going to issue this is if a hurricane is expected to develop into a major hurricane and make landfall as one in the next 48 hours. And the NHC has explicitly expects that in the cones and all that. Now, the reason I'm issuing a code red for a Category 5 as it's out to sea is because even though it's not really going to impact anyone, it is still something we need to take seriously, and it's still something people need to watch. Now, this is the last code, and this is the most serious. A code purple is if we are having a Category 5 hurricane expected to make landfall. And to understand this a little bit further, a Category 5 hurricane in itself is rare, and it's even more rare for it to make landfall. Although we've unfortunately had cases like Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Maria, and Hurricane Dorian, which is always tragic to see. Also, let's not forget Hurricane Michael back in 2018. So, how we're going to issue that is, once it hits Category 5 strength, and it is expected to make landfall in the next 72 hours, we are automatically upgrading it to a code purple. Or if it strengthens to a Category 5, right as it's making landfall, we are automatically upgrading it to code purple. The reason Category 5 at landfall has its own category is because it's the worst of the worst. And people need to take it seriously. Just not even seriously. Like, they should have been gone by the end of it. I also want people to know how serious the situation is. And with that being said, Category 5 at landfall has its own code, and that's code purple. So, with that being said, those are the codes we're going to be using. How you are going to see the codes is where you're going to see it through at the banner at the top of my YouTube page, or if you don't look at that, you're going to hear me say it. I'm going to say, we have a code so and so, we have a code red, or we have a code purple, or we have a code orange, or we have a code yellow, stuff like that, essentially. And I'm not sure where in the video I'm going to plaster that, but if the threat is large enough, I'm going to plaster it either right at the beginning or somewhere in the middle of the video, so that way you guys understand what code we're going to be having. So yeah, that's the second change we're going to make. The third change we're going to make is that over the next few weeks, I'm going to be experimenting with a few things with the camera and all that. I'm going to experiment with with a green screen just to see what's going on. I'm not going to start experimenting right away, but I am going to start in the next couple of weeks just to kind of see what's going on, what I can do with that. So, with that being said, that's all the changes we're going to be making. I hope this makes it clear, and I hope this makes things a little bit simpler for you guys. But with that being said, have a wonderful day. Stay safe.